Hi boys and girls, so today I'm going to continue reading from an illustrated treasury of Scottish mythical creatures, and it's going to be the story of the Whirlpool of Corryveckan. The Whirlpool of Corryveckan. The Corryveckan Whirlpool lies between the Isles of Jura and Scarborough, off the west coast of Scotland. You can sail over it when the waters are calm, but when the tide turns, its power is awesome to behold. Different tales are told as how it came to be there. The word Corryveckan comes from the Gaelic coir, which means kettle and cauldron, and brecon, which means shawl or plaid. To tell my tale, I've blended the story of the witch's shawl and the story of the loathsome Nucaleave, a creature so horrible I can only whisper its name. In the time before time, on the Isle of Skye, in a little croft at the foot of the Cuillin Mountains, there lived an old woman. No one knew her real name, and she was so old that she herself had forgotten it. The people of Skye spoke of her in various ways, sometimes as the Keilach, which means the old woman, or Banavus, which means witch. Perhaps she was a witch. She certainly owned a broomstick, and she had been perched, flying over the Cuillins on her brecon, her long plaid shawl streaming out behind her. She had a cauldron, too, an enormous pot that hung above the fire. She kept burning outside her door. Winter and summer and spring and autumn, she sat by this fire, crooning to herself whilst making porridge and potions. Her croft was known as the place of the coir, which means cauldron, so eventually the old woman came to be called Corry. Corry was famed as a spaewife throughout the Western Isles, for she had been in this world long enough to know all that is known to mortals, and some which is unknown. The islanders often went to her with their problems, both large and small. She was also wise in the ways of the wee folk, and it was said that occasionally they too knocked on the door of the croft under the Cuillins to seek her advice. On the day of which I speak, more than one person made their way through the foothills to the croft of the Corry. The first to arrive was a shepherd from Staffin. During these last 3 nights, 3 of my sheep have been mauled on the hillside, he told Corry. Please make a charm to keep them away, whatever mad dog is threatening my flock. The second to arrive was a fisherman from Fada. During these 2 nights, 2 fishing boats have been wrecked while sitting safe in the harbour, he told Corry. Please cast a spell to change the wild weather. The third to arrive was a widow from Waternish. During the last night, one of my daughters became sick with a strange disease. Please mix a potion to restore her health. Corry listened to what her visitors said and bade them return in 2 days. That night, a lady dressed in green and seated on a milk-white horse rode by the cottage singing in a mournful voice. Her song had no words, but the tone was pleading, and Corry understood that the wee folk needed help too. As soon as it was light, Corry rose from her bed. Taking her brecon from the hook in the door, she wrapped it 7 times around her shoulders. Then she mounted her broomstick and flew into the air to survey the view in each direction. She looked to the west and saw the watery waves of the great Atlantic Ocean, and all was as it should be there. She looked to the east and saw the hills and the heather of the mainland of Scotland, and all was as it should be there. She looked to the south and saw Ireland shimmering in the distance, and all was as it should be there. She looked to the north towards the Faroe and the Orkney Isles, but there all was not as it should be. The sea was dark and oily, and the shore was clogged with filth. From the north of the Isle of Skye, through Staffin, Fada and Waternish, a pestilence was spreading over the land, and Corry flew home again. She sat outside her door, stirring her cauldron and pondering what this blight might be. When evening came, she took a long, brightly lit piece of wood from the fire and, once again wrapping her breaking 7 times around her shoulders, she mounted her broomstick and she set off north. Hither and thither she flew until she spied a shape moving on a rough track below her. She dropped the blazing torch. As the torch plunged down, its light shone over the ground, revealing a horrible sight. Crawling along the earth was the most hideous creature with splayed legs and long muscular arms. There was no skin on the surface of its body, only red raw flesh. Within the flesh were veins of glaring yellow, and in them ran tar black blood. The creature raised its huge head, and a single eye glowed like a flaming beacon. Snatching the flaring torch, it threw to it the ground and trampled out its light. The next morning the shepherd, the fisherman and the widow came to the croft under the coolings, but Corrie had prepared nothing to give them. Neither charm, nor spell, nor potion will cure what ails our island, she told them, for it's not a mad dog, nor wild weather, nor a strange disease that's the cause of your troubles. It's something much worse. What is it? They asked. Corrie looked at them, and for the first time the islanders saw fear in the eyes of the old woman. A terrible creature has swum ashore from the northern waters to bring pestilence and death amongst us. Does this creature have a name? They asked. Yes, said Corrie. It's a Nuka-Lavi. Upon hearing this, the shepherd, the fisherman and the widow grew pale. Stories of the dreadful Nuka-Lavi were frequently told round the hearth. It was a vile creature, the cause of floods and famine, of disasters and droughts, whose sole purpose was to destroy everything in its path. It has the strength of 20 men and more, said the shepherd. It will crush everything it meets. It is too dangerous for anyone to approach it, said the fisherman. It will leave us lamenting in its wake. It has no kindness in its spirit, nor mercy in its mind, said the widow. My child will surely die. Corrie nodded her head. It is true that it's strong. It's true that it's dangerous. It is true that it has no kindness in its spirit, nor mercy in its mind. She hesitated, and then said, but it's also true that the Nuka-Lavi can never be killed. The shepherd, the fisherman and the widow fell to the floor, wailing and weeping, and they cried out, "We're doomed!" Perhaps, said Corrie, perhaps not. What cannot be killed cannot be curtailed. The Nuka-Lavi moves around in the dark, for it cannot bear the light. It drinks from the sea, for it cannot stand the touch of pure water. It cannot be caged, for it spins round and round without stopping if captured. She paused. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say, and do exactly what I ask you. To the shepherd, she said, bring me wool from the sheep that were mauled on the hillside. To the fisherman, she said, bring me the twine from the boats that were wrecked in the harbour. To the widow, she said, bring me the hair from the head of your daughter who's sick with this strange disease. To all 3 of them, she said, bring me these things before nightfall. As the shepherd and the fisherman and the widow left the croft, they heard Corrie mutter these words. Water clear as can be will defeat the Nuka-Lavi. While they were gone, Corrie was not idle. She emptied her cauldron and scrubbed it clean. Then she fetched bucket after bucket of pure, clear water from a mountain spring to fill it. The moon was rising as the shepherd, the fisherman and the widow returned, carrying the items they had collected. Corrie wove the wool from the mauled sheep, the twine from the wrecked boats and the hair from the head of the sick girl together with the moonbeams to make a stout rope. That night a lady dressed in green and seated on a milk-white horse rode by the cottage singing in a sweet voice. Her song had no words, but Corrie understood that the wee folk would lend her their strength to carry out the task she must perform on the morrow. The sun's rays were about to touch the slopes of the Coolins when Corrie took her breaking from the hook of the door and looped it over one arm. Over her other arm she looped the stout rope, and over the other end of the broomstick she looped the handle of her cauldron, which was full of pure water from the mountain spring. Northward she flew until she got to the place where the creature was ravaging the land. In the half-dark she could see it scuttling along the ground, and Corrie knew how she must act now, before the daylight came, and it hid itself away. Swooping low, she tilted the cauldron so that the water might run out, but the Nukahlavi spotted her and lashed out with its long arms. Corrie sped past, then turned her broomstick to renew her attack. This time she dived from above. Plummeting towards the creature, she emptied out the contents of her cauldron. Like a long waterfall, the pure water poured down, splashing onto the red, raw flesh of the Nukahlavi. The Nukahlavi bellowed with rage, then it opened its mouth and let out a loud roar. Roar! Belching a foul stench and a furnace heat. Corrie didn't flinch. As the fresh mountain water soaked into it, the creature started to shrink and shrivel. Corrie spread her wide bracken and flung it to the earth, covering the creature. Trapped inside the plaid, the Nukahlavi twisted this way and that way, trying to get free. Corrie landed beside it. Gathering up the four ends of her bracken, she fastened them with her stout rope of wool, twine, hair, and moonbeams. She pushed the bundle into her cauldron, and, mounting her broomstick, she took off into the air into the direction of the Coolins. But even when shrunk and shrivelled, a Nukahlavi is powerful. Corrie struggled to keep herself steady as the creature writhed about, bending the broomstick to breaking point. The weight of the cauldron with the Nukahlavi inside it began to drag her down. The broomstick shivered. Corrie clung on, fearing the Nukahlavi would escape if the cauldron smashed upon the mountainside. A rocky precipice loomed ahead. She was going to crash! But suddenly she heard the sound of voices singing. The song had no words, but the air was full of magic, and Corrie understood that the wee folk had come to her aid and would lift her up. Fast and furious, onwards and upwards, Corrie flew until she reached the top of the mountain known as Sgurr Alistair. Dismounting quickly, Corrie grasped the handle of the cauldron. There on the highest peak in the sky, she whirled round and round, not 3 but 33 times. Then Corrie let go. First the cauldron streaked through sky, then, travelling in a wide circle, it leapt into Lewis and hurtled past Harris. South it went down to North Uist, Benbecula and South Uist. It bounced beyond Barra and careered across Coll and Collinsay. Finally it jumped over Jura, where, spinning round and round, it stoated into the sea just short of Scarborough. And in that stretch of water the cauldron is still spinning today, which is why the Whirlpool in the strait between Jura and Scarborough is known as the Corryveckan. I hope you enjoyed that story, boys and girls. Thank you for listening.